Hello, malt mates. Welcome to the Whisky Bothy, where I, your host, Ralphie, talk about whisky, talk about other quality spirits now and again, and basically just share a journey. So rather than providing specific expertise and an awful lot of academic research, I'm really just giving a personal and alternative view as to my engagement and connection with quality spirits. And I have to stress, it's about quality, not quantity. However, quality can mean different things in different whiskies. And this is why I'm reviewing this here in review 1088. It's Glenmorangie Classic, non-age statement, a young Speyside Highland, because it has that crossover situation. Single malt whisky from Scotland. As you can see, I've been enjoying this. But the first thing I need to say is, unlike many of the whiskies I review, I've not been enjoying it all on my own. I've been sharing this with friends. I had some visitors, bikers, because I've got a few motorbikes myself, and they're not big whisky drinkers. And the last thing I'm going to do, because it would be a big mistake, is start to offer them fancy, demanding single malts like Springbank, Mortlach, or, well, take your pick. Edradour would be another good example, or certainly not Laphroaig, although I'm sure they would get the mechanical engineering notes being bikers. But basically, this is one where we sit out in the garden because it's summer and there's not too many mosquitoes, well, midges around, and we just have a bit of a banter and a bit of jollity because we're slightly under the influence, but only just a little bit. So this was shared between 4 people in one evening, and they loved it. More importantly, they loved the conversation around it, because it wasn't about the whisky. It wasn't a deep dive malt anorak situation. It was something else. And this is something we need to keep ourselves open to. When we're coming to whisky, we shouldn't overly institutionalise how we go about consuming it. Because there's times when the deep dives are best left alone and you can just pour something simple, practical and completely inexpensive, but still of decent quality. Not spectacular quality, but of decent quality. And I would say that Glenmorangie certainly ticks the box. I've reviewed this whisky not that long ago. In fact, it was in December 2023, so we're about 1.5 years ago. So it's kind of fairly near, it's not that far back, but then I gave it a score of 77. So will my score change? Because I've got options here. I could leave it at 77 because the whisky's certainly not changed, because Glenmorangie is noted for the consistency of its core range. Over the years, they've been remarkably consistent, and I applaud them for it. What have we got on the nose? Very engaging, sweet, honeyed, very honeyed, barley sugar, most definitely barley sugar. It's a very light but fruity, slight apricot, slight peach, just a hint of pineapple in the background, but definitely this is what you call a light single malt whisky. It is, of course, made in pot stills. They've got lots of them at Glenmorangie Distillery. And I would, if you're looking for something that's really good value for money, check out their 18-year-old, which I've particularly enjoyed, and I'm planning on buying another bottle. Now, take note of what I'm saying here, because it's not that often that I buy a repeat bottling. So the 18-year-old is one that I highly recommend, but it never gets mentioned in dispatches as regards the whisky connoisseurs. circle. And that's a big growing circle at the moment, by the way. A lot of incredible accumulated knowledge that's willingly shared. But this is a humble malt. And I think that's one of the reasons that I warmed to it over the years, is there's no airs, no graces, no pretensions. There's no claims to its collectability. There's no big fancy song and dance from the marketing department who are bottling non-fungible tokens. Do you remember them back in the old days when they were a thing? An absolute litmus paper to the absurdity of human naivety and stupidity. Quite floral. Complex floral. Honeysuckle, yes. Lily, yes. A little touch of light roses in amongst the lily. So, and I can say that with some authority, because I've been wandering around other people's gardens recently as part of Open Gardens Day, because I just like to see what other people are growing in their gardens and what's successful in the soil that they have. So it gives me ideas from my own little garden. It's something with a developed whisky nose that you really pick up in the scent of flowers, and you don't just get a flowery scent, you can actually differentiate between them substantially over time. And it's just the complexity and the beauty. The most powerful floral scent I ever got was from a Paphiopedilum, which, big long word, but it's an orchid. It's a hanging orchid that's kind of cup-shaped, flagon-shaped. It only blooms for about 3 days, but the smell is phenomenal. Phenomenal. I better taste this, see if the taste matches up to the nose. I know it is. I'm just giving a wee bit of pre-sipping theatre here. Crisp. Sweet in the nose, crisp in the palate, drier in the palate. Again, the floral, the fragrant, soft sultana notes. It's not as heavy as raisins. It's lighter. You can see the vanillas coming out from American Oakwood quite clearly. Have they added caramel to that? Yes, they have. Have they added much? No, they haven't. They're not overcolouring their whisky. This is another reason why I recommend it to you. Its lack of pretension is partly delivered in the honesty of its bottling. It's bottled at 40%, sure, but when you can pick this up in a local supermarket, cheaper than a proprietary blended whisky, that's impressive. That's saying something. And if you're in a strict budget, this is the absolute perfect bottle of whisky to buy, and then you teaspoon in your other stronger malts from your collection to make them last longer, and you'll get amazing delivery with Glenmorangie as a vehicle. In fact, it's the absolute perfect blended whisky, which happens to be a single malt. Cheers. The nose isn't changing much. It's drying slightly. The sweetness is still strong, still quite powerful in the nose. The floral and the fragrance is becoming a little bit more herbaceous, slightly gingery. It's quite refreshing in the nose now. Taste. Light, simple, subtle, understated. There's no big fireworks show here. No, the very opposite. Everything's muted, but it's still a busy malt, because malt whisky does that. And the problem people have with Glenmorangie is that they think it's it's cheap in the supermarket, therefore it can't be up to much. And if it's for a great big belter experience like Lagavulin or Laphroaig or Springbank, if that's what you're looking for, forget Glenmorangie. It's not there for you. But I have to say, I really, really enjoyed it when I had my friends round, because I didn't have to talk about whiskey the whole evening. They had this, granted. A couple of the guys had it with the soda siphon, which was fine. And just to confirm, yeah, they left their bikes at home. There are a nearby bread and breakfast place, so they left the bikes back up the road and wandered back, full of a really successful evening. And it's not one of these things that you'd have with intense whiskey. Something, I'm going to share this. Something I notice in whiskey clubs is it can get all a bit too serious. Now, there's a place and a time for that. But it's nice to kind of move away from the whiskey scene and enjoy a whiskey just in a completely conversation which is not about whiskey at all. Excuse me, you're not getting up. No, don't bite my glass. Just watch where you're putting that tail, you rascal. Do you want treaties? Been a good boy? No. You never could, are you? I can't stop and give you tickles, mate, because I'm busy with a review here. Thank you for your patience. Glenmorangie. It's in the subtlety, but this is a subtlety of a malt which is worth examining a little more closely. When you're adding water to this, add very, very little. Add literally no more than a few drops. And you'll notice that it evens out, and there's a natural sensation complexity to it. The dryness has got a kind of firmness to it. The sweetness is light and delicate. The honey note gathers in complexity. The barley sugar is just delightful. I can't fault this. And this confirms something very important to me, maltmates. And that is that I am not a full-blown whiskey snob. Because I can get... It doesn't have to be a cask strength obscurium every time. What am I going to give this? I gave it 77 last time. Now, it's still a simple, humble, single malt. I can't be a high mark. But 79, we're lifting it 2 points. Because at this stage, I just enjoy just kicking my feet up a little bit, changing the subject, changing the company, and just enjoying something simple and honest. Join me in my next review, 1088 Extras, in which I will be talking a bit more about Glenmorangie as a brand worth having a bottle of. See you then.